It's my pleasure and privilege of introducing our next presenters. They were with us a couple of years ago. They did a presentation on a film that they had worked on, animation-wise, If I Was God, by Cordell Barker. And the film actually won the award in the professional category. They did a fabulous presentation. I know you're gonna really enjoy what they're about to present to you. They worked really hard. So I'd like to introduce Dale Hayward and of course Sylvie Trouvé. So you guys come on up and let's give them a round of applause. You are the masters of your destiny.
Hi. Thanks for being here. Thanks for wanting to listen to us.
Et merci Eric pour nous avoir invités.
Ça me fait plaisir.
On est enfin ici.
Je vais juste aller régler un problème l'autre bord, je reviens, parlez lentement.
OK.
We're really excited to talk about the making of BoneMother. It's our first narrative together. So yeah, let's...
We are Sea Creature, an animation studio based in Montreal. We worked on a bunch of different things. We worked on the feature film Le Petit Prince. And
short films for, like Eric said, Cordell Barker and Regina Pessoa this summer in Portugal with pixelation and drawings on the walls.
And we also love to find abstraction with the common things, like shooting a grapefruit for a documentary project about synesthesia.
And we do our best to balance between independent and personal and commercial work, like this guy's Metro job. You wouldn't have no idea where you'd find chalk after so many drawings. Got everything. Or, animating clothes, like this Nike job.
Or animating coffee for this Tim Hortons job. We really believe that anything can be animated, and we love to animate everything. Plus, these kind of jobs help us feed our kids.
Well, of course, put them to work. So.
Like family time, right?
Right, the family time. I mean, no, family time. But we love Samo. It allows us to be professional kids, and with big kid toys, but using our hands and hopefully not cutting them off.
Even though sometimes it's very often small stuff to deal with, and you have to go to great lengths just to turn on the lights at the back of your studio.
We love doing this, and so we're really happy they wanted to hear about BoneMother. So we used a lot of 3D printing, and it was the first time that we had to do that. So there was
Okay, wait. First, I think we should show you the film. All right, you guys are like our first audience. I think you get to see the film.
For it.
Lights off. So, is this working? Yeah, there you go. So, Dale, why did we do this?
Well, let me tell you about the fire. Can I eat him? The house whined. I caressed its bleach white walls, and it leaned into my touch. The fire sighed. Cross your gutters, he doesn't know the charm, I said, and squinted for better sight. The man halted at the gate and glanced upwards, but the hood drowned his face in shadow. There wasn't a whiff of fear for him at the sight of the gatepost topped with glowing skulls.
This was an excerpt from the original story by Irish author Maura McHugh. The story totally inspired us. It was so textural and really, you used all your senses when you're, reading this, and the characters were so rich that we just felt stop motion was so perfect to adapt.
Yeah, I listened to it first on a horror podcast called Pseudopod years ago.
Long time ago.
So in 2016.
No. Further back.
Okay. 2015.
No.
2014. 2013.
Yes, bingo. This is when we began the pitching process with a proposal. When we were working at the NFB on Cordell Barker's film, Michael, the exec producer, asked Dale, do you have any ideas, any projects in mind? And he said, oh yeah, I have lots. There's one I really like, but it's not really an NFB film. And so Michael said, well, pitch it to me.
We presented this proposal. It was about Baba Yaga becoming a mother to a legend. It's a dark folkloric tale of a quest for youth and immortality. We wanted to bring the stereotype back to the archetype, reverse the roles. It's the male seeking vanity, and the female is the strong and dominant. Turn the witch back to the shaman.
I just, this story evolved a lot from the beginning podcast, and we really wanted her to be more of a meditative woman who was, in control of the elements, and, the idea that she had this house of bone that was her child, and also that Baba teaches you a lesson. These were all universal themes that we really wanted to embark on.
And so we began adapting this story to the screen, to make it animation.
Yeah.
So
our first challenge, I think.
Right. So we started with Baba, the house, and Vlad. Waters and death and life are in two separate places. Vlad has the rose, offers the water of the death. Baba wants the rose because she's falling apart, and the house wants the bones. Baba leaves to get the waters of death. Meanwhile, Vlad tricks the house. He's telling where the
You guys understand all this, right? We're going somewhere, right? You totally understand this path that we were on, right? No. It's like way too complicated, and it really. We had a lot of peer reviews, and it was really important to show the film to a lot of people during the animatic stage, because we learned that this story was not going to work. And even though it's really hard to show your ugly baby, it's important to do so.
Not that ugly baby, the one on the wall. The other one. It may send you home crying, but there's gold in these peer reviews. They ask you questions like, why are the waters in different places, and what's the purpose of the rose, and
do you really need it?
Yeah, what's driving these characters? Why do they do that?
So we all know that story is king, and a story at the NFB is really king. And our film was too complex for a short film. So with the help of our producer Yelena and co-writer Lannon, we were able to streamline it down to something manageable.
So, still with Baba, the house and Vlad. But now the waters of life and death are under the house. There's no rose. And now he wants just the waters of life, and they want just bones. So it just simplifies their motives and keeps it all just much simpler.
3 arrows, you notice that? It's much simpler. So the puppets and sets and the computer animation were in process, but even after this, the story still kept changing because we had to kill our darlings.
One of the more exciting moments that we had early on was this fight between Baba and Vlad. And after all was said and done, it ended with Vlad being impaled on his own sword. Vlad the Impaler, impaled. It was just beautiful.
Yeah, we didn't want to let go of it. It was
and then after
too
that,
brilliant.
He was turned into Dracula, and then he was burned by the sun, and then dragged off the sword. It was just bloody. It was epic.
And we were about to shoot it, and then we were like, I think we're focusing too much on his pain, and film's not really about him that much.
Right.
So, plus during the sound recording, sounded like this. Yeah. Shouldn't be laughing, right? You shouldn't be laughing at this moment of pain and torture. Like, it was like, we're not making comedy. We're supposed to make a serious film.
Animation serious.
Yeah,
Serious business.
serious business. So we were like, you gotta cut it.
Right.
You
But
gotta cut it.
we gotta just spend a moment to acknowledge how cool and awesome actors.
Great Baba Yaga. I am known far and wide as Prince Vladislav, son of the dragon.
Such a beautiful voice. Raphael Pitardi.
Ladies, relax.
Butter. It's great.
Now, taste the waters of death!
Ah.
You said
My
it's
name?
just voices. It's just amazing.
René Madeleine de Guerrier. Like, who doesn't want to animate to that sound, right? Like, amazing.
So, back to the visuals. We started off with a teaser like this. So the mood remained, the characters changed, and well, of course, so did the release date. But it was the essence of the project, and that's what we were going for, was something like that.
And Dale had many sketchbooks full of character design.
Many.
Like 5
Many.
sketchbooks or something like this.
So many.
And at first, Baba really looked kind of like a monkey, and the first sculpts were pretty ugly until she, started becoming a person, that you could relate to. And this led to this design.
And then normally in animation and stop motion, you're kind of limited with the amount of faces that you can, the variety of expressions and dialogue that you have to work with. And other films, when you use the replacement faces, you've got a seam line that you've got to remove in post, or somewhere that you have to deal with the seam. So we wanted to avoid all that and do full face replacement, just to kind of hopefully save.
We want to try
work.
something new too, right? We had 4 Lulzbots 3D printers going for 4 months straight, printing 2 heads on each printer. And we printed 1,500 faces, which we had to store somewhere. Everybody thought we ate a lot of pizza, and we told them yes, we did.
And so we weren't able to have super high-end, high-resolution printers, so we ended up using limitation as our intention, and we just allowed the printer to create all of these wrinkles naturally, digital naturally. And we actually exaggerated the stepping to emphasize these wrinkles. And besides, reproducing this in a normal molding process, I don't even think it would even be possible. So.
And to achieve the topographical feeling of her skin, Baba was printed with her face lying down. And then we wanted him to be really as smooth as possible, as smooth as the printers would give us. So we printed him his head standing up.
Although it's actually the same resolution between the 2 characters, just how we placed it. So with any new tech, we needed some research and development. And Andre Michaud, our 3D printing armature master, was only too happy to explore the potential.
And this was really good nerd out time for the boys. You could hear them on the other side of the room, giggling. Yeah. One of the major challenges that we had was to find the material, the right 3D printing material to do the faces, and we tried a lot of different kind of materials. Everything was very plasticky, didn't take to paint very well. So we went through some experimentation there, and
along came this pine wood PLA filament that could absorb watercolor paint just wonderfully, and it gave us a natural feeling to the faces.
it was 70% plastic and 30% recycled wood fibers, I think it really helped to make the characters feel like they were part of this forest and the environment. And it smelled like pancakes when it went wrong, when the print went wrong. It actually smelled like pancakes.
Because it has a cornstarch as one of the ingredients, so when it melts, you can smell it. So, this gave us the idea that the next film we're going to propose is a 3D printing food film. So
You can all come and eat it with us afterwards.
totally no waste. It's going to.
In order to keep the aesthetic of the puppets, we also decided that we were going to print the hands with the same wood filament.
But you can't, really put wire inside, 3D solid 3D prints. But we discovered that actually, if you heat up the filament, then it actually softens the 3D print. You sort of move it as it's softer, just hold it there for a second, and then it dries up again, and then you got animated hands.
For our bones, we used a MakerBot printer, which had a larger platform, and we used a clear PLA because they look more like bones, and it allowed us to shine the light through it.
But didn't always come out, and definitely doesn't smell like pancakes.
So, but when they did work out, and we got some really great results, and even if there was a little bit of cleanup, it was still totally worth going this route.
And took the paint, like acrylic paint at least, really nicely. So it looked really textural. And, so, but we needed obviously lots and lots of bones. So because
We made 2 scales of the house, one big scale to fit the puppets into, and then one that was 1/3 of the scale.
that we needed obviously for the wides. Since it's the larger scale of it all. The houses, they became these giant 3D puzzles that we were putting together. But we needed a way to, glue them and connect them all together. And kind of regular glue sticks are just too rubbery. They didn't quite, have a good bond. So we actually modeled and 3D printed our own glue sticks. And so that way that the bond that we had was just the same material that we had. So it was much stronger, and thanks to Elwa.
All the Maya modeling for the 3D prints was handled by Andre Michaud and Nono Kumalo. Thank goodness, because we weren't ready to learn Maya.
Yeah.
We learned a lot of stuff, but
It
they were more experts, so this was much better.
Yeah. Without them, it totally would not have happened. But little did they know that this was our true intention, was a fashionable line of bone hats. So we're taking orders. But, mainly we use the 3D printing for the faces, of course. So they began as base meshes for Maya, and then we brought them into Mudbox where we could kind of sculpt the details. And we definitely took the opportunity to learn Mudbox because it's a lot easier and it was really intuitive. And we broke the face down to the basics of the eyebrows up, down, mouth open, phonemes, specific expressions if we need to. And then magnets and registration held the faces in place. We had a number, of course, into the back of each one to keep a track of what was going on, where, what number was what. And we also made the hair with 3D printing.
We're not going to talk about the hair. I'm sorry. I cannot hear any more talk about the hair. We talked about the hair a lot, right, Andre? The hair was something to deal with. So we're not going to talk about the hair. You don't want to know about the hair.
Too much pain.
Take too long.
Yeah.
That was easy.
No, it was not easy, but it was fun. Animating in Mudbox was the first time we did that, and it was so much fun. Like I usually only get to move little beady things around or replace faces, but this time I could like move the cheeks and move the eyebrows and really like get expressions and subtleties that I just never get before. So it was so much fun.
Mm-hmm. But
Hold on to your seats because there's another technical note coming along if you want to know. Dale insisted on this one, so here you go.
It's essential. It's totally essential. We've got a Python script made by Chris Lesage that automated all of the registration stamp box. It generated all these STLs for us and kept all track of all the numbers, put it all into a dope sheet. It was just magic.
It was necessary, but
Nerd magic.
Nerd magic, yeah. After the faces were printed, they come out like this, and there's some supports to clean up, which, with 1,500 heads, that's a lot of supports to clean up, but it was pretty easy to sand them off. And of course, every head is painted. We limited it to brows, eyes, and lips for Ev and Claire, who painted all these faces. We thank them so much for their patience.
And then our first paint tag.
That was easy.
Long time in coming, and it was like,
Yeah.
That
Finally.
was easy.
we got something.
And then the final comp shot.
That was easy.
So there's some motion control as well in there. Slider, handheld, but it doesn't always work.
Motion control does not always work.
It's,
So regarding the sets, we used a digital paper cutter. It was essential in making trees. And we used the leftover negative space from the prints to create a bunch of other things. So it saved us some time. We could create, we created a nest for the house and created the roof for the house. So, yeah.
we tried to make sure nothing went to waste. We were trying to use all these little scraps and everything
Help
like
save
that.
time too.
Just, like, we would have still been making the film if we had a hand cut this.
And to match the forest, everything went together.
Beautiful stuff.
I was really grateful to have Corrine Morale help me out with making the trees and the maquettes for the sets. Everything was built to camera. And we started with little rolled up pieces of paper to figure out the scaling, and then I had a lot of fun cheating the forest we made to the camera, just using smaller and smaller printouts of the trees. And of course, our widest shots were actually our smallest sets, which we thought was really fun.
Wait, hold on, emergency, glue gun on fire. Glue gun on fire.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, back to work. Okay, move on.
Actually happened. Our floor was on fire. So since we had over 100 shots in our film, we reused a lot of the set pieces, a lot of the floor pieces. I was texturing with toilet paper and repainting it and resetting it up. And so we actually don't have any sets right now. Everything was just reused to such an extent that it got really thick with hot glue and just foam core and lots of foam core.
Who else has shot the film in the basement? Yeah? Basement, yes. Necessary.
Yeah,
Yes,
thank goodness. Yelena suggests that we go home to shoot the film because otherwise I think we would have had this baby at the film board. And of course, proud daddy here did bring his baby home. And I said, Dale, we're not going to talk about the film. I don't want to hear BoneMother. I don't want to hear anything for 1 month after the baby. Nothing. So we worked up to the date that I had the baby. And then what do you know? 2 weeks later, who's talking about the film, sticking the baby in the set?
He fit right in there. But you were working on Christmas Day.
Yeah, well, that's different. You started it, so.
But it can really, seriously, it can be dangerous, getting this obsessive about working because, there's been wild women that have just been living behind your set. They just come out of nowhere.
I think I was looking for the waters of life back there, and it worked, because look I thinned out, I got to move around the set.
But one of the greatest things is, working with your kids and getting them involved, and, Zoe, you saw her before, she was totally an amazing help.
Yeah,
Super
so proud, yeah.
And, we had, of course, another little supervisor that, who grew to become Godzilla.
And when things get out of hand, stick them in the shower. Because you need to talk about the next shot, so need some time.
Well, she can't help you. Baba's not going to.
Seriously, life has a way of giving you the answers to your challenges, and we were looking for a solution for the waters of life for a long time.
Yeah, these waters needed to not be the kind of traditional stop-motion solutions to water, like cellophane or glycerin or plasticine. It's too opaque. It needed something to be magical. It needed to float with luminosity and just really feel magical.
And one day Zoe came home from a science experiment at school, and she was holding the solution in her hands. And she called it la glue. And we were like, this is awesome! And so it was the perfect thing for the Waters of Life. You know, polyvinyl alcohol with borax and some food coloring. So we lit the Waters of Life from below to get the luminosity. And then the Waters of Death we did not light from below because we wanted it to be dark and gross. And we also try to animate it more sporadically.
Oh, wait, emergency, puppet break, puppet break. Call Eric Goulet. All right, we can fix the upper, all right.
Yeah, I think this may be one reason why we're in Montreal is just because Eric will help us the drop of a hat.
So one of the great things that we find very, very useful when we're shooting something like this is we do it's called a photomatic. We pegged it as photomatic.
We go through the storyboard and we take photos of each frame from the storyboard and explore the lenses, and it really helps us figure out a lot of stuff, like potential, problems with lack of set, or can estimate how much green screen we'll need, or whether the puppet can actually do the things you think it's going to do, and then you can have time to adjust and work around that.
Yeah. Whether a sequence is even working because you put it on camera.
It's totally rudimentary, but it's it really helps us out in making films. As for the lighting, we wanted it to have a chiaroscuro feeling, so LED lights became a real essential thing.
Yeah, it was great to be able to finally learn how to solder LEDs and use these to our advantage, because our scale is so much smaller and LEDs are so much cheaper, and we could put them wherever we needed them, and it was just hot glue them in there and set them all up.
And the lights actually, they became a character. They were DMX controlled through Dragon, but then they were just so essential for the house because it was the voice of the house. We didn't want this mouth that was blah 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 blah, because it would have just been comedic. So we're like, how are we going to portray that the house is speaking? And we discovered that the lights would work nicely for that.
Yeah, even for the candlelight as well, because Vlad is bringing the fire. The fire becomes a major part in the end, of course, and so we needed something that was animatable and had, sort of small, that we could just put in between the little small things. So.
Me a taste of the
It was also really important that the animation feel realistic. We didn't want it to be snappy or too pose to pose.
And I'll offer you something in exchange.
And it reflected the lighting. The lighting was going to be more natural and realistic, so the animation, you kind
with
of
all the
set these
expressions, yeah.
Once the expression and the realism to the design, then the animation also needs to be a little bit more realistic. And we also brilliantly decided that Baba was a force of nature. So of course there must be wind.
Wind.
Well, once there's wind, that means that the trees all have to move, and her hair has to move, and her clothing has to move,
and the floor
has to move, and there's going to be dust everywhere.
And there's a lot of shots like that at the end. And we're like, what the hell were we thinking? And it was the only shot that we did together, because at one point I was like, Dale, I can't take it anymore. I'm so tired of animating leaves. You have to come and help me. So we did some of that animating together.
And this epic shot of 106A was brought to you by the Dollar Store Pink Screen. Because we had subtle green in the leaves. You can't see, but so we couldn't use green. We had to, and blue was the lighting was too cool. So the pink screen was really great. So when we had all the characters through in the background, put in the characters and the monoliths, and Simon Cote put a little magic glow on them, dust going in different directions, digital camera move, and a little camera shake when she pushes off, and then final color correct, magic goes off.
So yeah, we learned a lot of stuff making this film, and we're really, really happy to be able to finally share it with you.
Yeah, and if you take anything at home about this talk, it's keep in mind, put your kids to work, kill your darlings, and trust Dollar Store Pink Screens.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, we learned, like I said, you know, it's really magical to realize that life gives you the answers to your questions. You know, we had so many moments like this. And the kids, this was like their best part, is just taking apart this last set. You know, finally start pulling things off when, you know, for months we're like, don't touch that, don't touch that. So,
Destroy.
yeah. Oh, actually, we put a little surprise under some of the seats. If you reach far back under the seat, there's some people might discover something.
Special surprise. Searching
I think
back
there's
underneath
10
your
in
seat.
there, and maybe you can check the seats next to you, because I don't know exactly where they are, but it's at the if you flip your seat up. I don't know if there's any in the front. Just for fun.
So you can paint them, post it, tag our Instagram. How many do we find? How many, who else found one? Put your hand up. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Maybe a few more. It's supposed to be
In
11.
the front.
Zoe insisted on 11. I don't know why.
Yeah, she also insisted that I put candy in there.
Yeah, right.
So the chocolate's because of her.
There's some. You know,
Another. Great. So,
So does anybody have any questions?
have you already answered? Can you put on?
Hi there, my name is Eileen. I think I'm more interested in the production side of like animation in general. So if you could talk a little bit more about like, I don't know, like how did you manage like schedule and budgeting and all that stuff? But I don't know if you can answer that. Is it okay?
Yeah. Well, the budget was kind of handled by the film board. They kind of financed the whole project. But the scheduling of how we kind of made it all happen, that was just up to us to sort of schedule it all out and plan it out. It's not the most exciting part of things, but also necessary because, you know.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
We like to pin up all the boards up on the wall and give us a sense of time and to it all. And, you know, this stuff takes so long, so you got like one shot and that's a whole week. You know,
Yeah, if you don't make a schedule, you don't get it done very fast.
Yeah.
So you need to have an expectation, like, okay, we do 3 shots a week, or you shoot so much per day, and you just do it.
You know, we're visual people, of course, so we'd like to, you know, big boards and colors and, you know, stuff like that. So, but yeah, as far as the schedule is concerned, you know, we shot for almost a year.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
I can just be loud.
Okay, yeah.
Did you have other research for the story, or was it all really from this initial story from that podcast?
I guess I can talk about this. Yeah, Baba, there's so many stories about her. We didn't really show much of the visual influences, but there was definitely, you know, Mike Mignola from Hellboy, just visually that played a huge role, and some of the way he tells a story too. The idea of a folklore crossover was really, really fascinating. He does that a lot, so that was really inspiring for that. So,
Okay, perfect.
Can you guys like
Share?
Yeah, share.
Yeah, we're used to sharing. I think we can share some more.
speak loud.
Well, who knows?
Oh, who knows? Okay.
Okay, hello dear Sylvie and Dale. There's 2 shots, there's so many shots that you're looking at and say, how the hell they did that shot? There's a great demonstration, and when the confrontation at the end with the flying triangle and pyramids and so on. But there's the giant house at one point at the end is in fire, and then she she blow the fire and then it falls down. This kind of a bit of an impossible shot to do. Have anything?
We made it possible.
So tell us about it.
Well, yeah, that was totally one of the most complicated shots for sure.
Yeah.
But it was really inspired by Return of the Jedi, of the AT-STs. The AT-STs falling down, and even AT-ATs walking. The stop mo that Phil Tippett and those guys did was just like, it was always just like, that's what drew me into stop motion.
Yeah, impossible to do in what sense? Like animation-wise, or
There's so many different
or all the effects and stuff?
different things to do at the same time, synchronizing it in fire, and then the fire is not totally extinguished. I know there's After Effects and stuff like that, but and then it's a certain size, and then it has to fall down towards the camera. You know, controlling all these aspects was a logistic tour de force. That's the word I was looking.
Yeah.
Logistic tour de force. So how did you approach that?
Well, you shot the house on blue screen?
Blue, and I'm just looking for the time. I'm just looking for the time lapse of it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So there were a lot of tests with the motion control at first. This gives you an idea of the house by itself. That was then comped into the scene.
So it was kind of a test animation, just to, the house was on a motion control, just to get a sense. Even the camera was on a slight axis till you can't really see it, but it had focus pullers on it as well. Just to test it out, make sure it all worked. Then you can throw in that feed. So many tests. I mean, I showed one, but I think I did like 7 or 8 at least run-throughs on it. And it was always so tragic because we knew that we were going to have to actually destroy this house that we've been building for months and months and months.
Our daughter kept on saying, "Are you really going to burn the house? You're going to really burn it?" Like, yeah, we're going to burn it.
So you can see that there's the practical lights inside the bones to give it a little bone glow, as well as the blue inside. And then, it was just shot really as one big pass. I kind of emphasized a little bit in post. And our friend Nick Fairhead in Toronto did all the fire and all the kind of extra glow embers, if you can hear me, dust and, everything. So yeah, it was a kind of tour de force shot.
The environment was done separately.
And a comment, at one point Baba is coming back in panic towards the house, so you have the forest, and in her, I don't know, little globe, she's flying. I thought the shot was spectacular, and it was what a giant set, and I love it. You show us the teeny set. I love it.
Yeah, it's kind of the fun, the movie magic.
Salut.
Salut.
Juste une question piège pour vous faire rire.
Question piège.
I was wondering, let's say like it's a huge project, but is there anything you would have made different based on the experience that you have now?
Oh yeah.
Like, but I
lots of things.
I think maybe some people would be interested in hearing this. People wanting to make a film, maybe it would be helpful.
One thing, we wouldn't have printed off so many faces, I think. We would have tried to limit the script at the very beginning to, how we had we had like 10 options of the whole face, and I think that would have been a big time saver. We probably could have had just as much expressions.
Yeah, there's a lot of prints.
Less faces.
Yeah, ultimately, once we printed some of the faces, we painted them, and then we throw them in our camera, and we're like, I can't even tell. There's like half a box here, and they look exactly the same. And it's like,
so a little too subtle,
and
for the printer.
Getting the production going, no time to test, and then you just sort of make all this stuff. But it was having that variety though. On the flip side, we changed towards the end of the film the script changed quite a bit, even right up to when we were shooting. And so having, even though we had all these boxes, we had options that we could kind of swap and
That's true.
you know, use new faces for. So sometimes it's hard to tell if a face was used or not, like, because you're off the exposure sheet. But it was like, I mean, always, as you saw from the video, it's just like, we're always learning and be willing that life is going to kind of give you those answers that you're kind of really stuck on at that point. And so it's kind of, I think it would have been nice to also have an opportunity to leave at open even more. You know, to have time for that. More research and development time would have been great.
Yeah, it'd be just great to be able to make time, have more time, you know, if you just buy time somehow to have more time to redo things that, you know, you don't have time to do. You know, I'd change that if I could have a magic pill to change it, but I don't, so.
Yeah, but I just wanted to add, like, congratulations, because I can tell that, like, you've started from scratch, like you've invented all the process of the printing. It's not like many people had this experience before, so I hope it's not being lost after the project.
Wow.
Maybe it can be given or transmitted somehow to some other projects.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think we were inspired by what was happening in the rest of the industry as well, and we're also inspired that the film board were willing to take a chance and try this stuff out. And then I think that also reflected on the team that made it all happen, because it wasn't just us. So it hopefully, yeah, it inspires others. Like I said, like the 3D printing just kind of is inspiring. It gives you all these ideas of what's possible, what you can do, like the glue sticks or, you know, or whatnot. We use it even for prototyping of the armature as well. At one point when the design was totally different. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't go to the history books.
Hi, thank you firstly for sharing the film. I'm so happy to have seen it. My whole stop motion team in Vancouver has been following your process for like years.
Great.
So it was amazing to see it and also sort of see the breakdown of it. My question would be sort of the differences or experience that you had while you were making it at the film board versus when you shifted to working at home, and sort of what were the advantages and disadvantages of both?
I can't.
We used our kids more at home.
Yeah. I can't go to work.
Extra labor.
They're not so big on going to work in your underwear at the film board. I don't know why.
Well, I think one advantage, well, I mean, the
Luke
film
is
board
okay
is
with
great
it,
because there's space and you have
Right.
the equipment there. You know, you need an extra thing. You can go there and you have a lot of people to bounce ideas off of, and, you know, everybody that's there is wonderful. The only advantage to working at home, and sometimes it's a disadvantage, that you're always in it. You're always there. You're always, you know, it's like 5 o'clock in the morning, can't sleep, oh, I'll go shoot. You know, it's like, you can't go away from it. Yeah,
we had to limit, like, no talk in bed.
Yeah.
Work.
It used to be no talk during dinner, you know, no talk during dinner, and then it was like, okay, no talk during, you know. Anyways. So.
But it saved a huge amount of time, like, as well, no commute, you know, we're right down there, and there was just, I'm a night person, so it was great to be able to just sort of jump right in whenever we needed to.
Lighting was difficult, though, because, you know, our basement's, like, at the most 7 feet tall, and the room is, like, what, 8 by 6? Like, it's, even our producer would come over, and she'd have to crawl under things to come and see what we were doing, so it was, like, you know, it was a challenge for that, you know, especially to try and get your background to be lit, you know, and create space. So that's why we ended up doing more comping as well.
There was a couple of like more questions, so one there and then one there.
I want to say thank you for sharing. Okay. First off, I'd like to just say thank you for sharing everything. And I've only had a little bit of experience with just both CG and stop motion animation. And so I've been really curious about the process of 3D printing, where you're really preparing the performances ahead of time. And I've been kind of intimidated by the idea that you're locking in the performance, and that idea of, I don't know if you'd be willing to share if it was limiting your flexibility in performances for stop motion, or if there were advantages of preparing the performances through 3D printing were more than the freedom you get with stop motion.
Yeah, totally. It definitely kind of, you know, setting us on a path, but those kind of...
It was only the faces.
Yeah, I mean, the dialogue was set and stuff like that. But again, we can, like you said, we rewrote it towards the end, so we were able to repackage and try out new faces for each one. But it was a nice way, even when we did bring in the facial animation, it was a way for us to sort of like really think about the shot, whether it was actually going to happen, to pre-animate it in our mind's eye, because we already had the animatic and it was pretty detailed, but to see it animated definitely lengthen the shots to allow for that time where you wanted to see an expression longer and stuff. So it was really a really inspiring moment to sort of play around with and to sculpt in digital. It was my first, you know, venture into that, and so that was really, it just opened up so much more potential of what the character could do, and it allowed me to really solidify digitally that this is what the design was, rather than just being kind of vague and figuring it out on the day. You know, it's a way to sort of lock things in. So it's kind of, it's scary, but it's totally necessary because you got to get the thing done.
Just do it.
You know?
Yeah, just do it.
Just do it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Now that you've completed this film, are you working on something else, and does that mean a third child?
No more children. But we are working on Inner Basement again, like already, so that's just the way it is right now.
Yeah, we have the stop motion, we're shooting another puppet film lining up. We just finished working on another, like I said, we finished working with Regina Pessoa on her film in Portugal. And so it was just so beautiful being there all summer, and we got totally inspired. But to do, again, puppet animation is kind of both of our first venture into stop motion. We worked in TV series for a number of years, but it opened up our mind to what animation can be, and that it's not just puppet, set, light, you know, it can be anything can be animated. And so that's what that kind of trip was also about, is just sort of seeing what's around and what can you animate, and how can you play with what animation is. So I think we're always inspired by not just sticking to one thing, you know, and trying out the different stuff. So
yeah, I think every single job that we've had or project that we've done has been completely different practically, and which is great because there's always like extra challenges to figure out, and you know, keeps your mind young and stuff. So it's fun.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else?
He has a question.
Back here? Well, I
Yeah,
can right there.
He's been waiting a while.
Okay. So this might be a new question because this is all new stuff to us. But the reason you're using Maya to model that is in order to model all the animations ahead of time and then print them to the 3D printer.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, it gave us a pre-run of what the animation was going to be, so we can figure out all the dialogue and sculpt them, because without the 3D model, you can't really have much of a 3D print. So and some of the skeletons and the bones we were able to find online models to at least get us started for the sculpting, and then we kind of revised it from there.
I was just wondering about the hands. You said that you heated them and then posed them. Would you do that on set then? You would have them attached and then use a heat gun on the puppets during, whoa.
Yeah, it took a little longer, but it's amazing what you can cheat with the same hand. Like that, you know, you can get away with a lot of stuff.
Was it like for the hands close to the face or anything? Was there worry of it damaging anything else while using the heat gun?
Well, funny thing with actually, because so you saw in the, I don't know if you noticed in the first painted test of Vlad, there's a kind of white flecks that was on his face. And we were kind of like, oh, that was just the way that the printer did it. So we were like, well, you know, we'll just live with it. Pretty much right in the last, like, what, 3 weeks, that happened where we got the heat gun a little too close to the face and realized it actually smoothed that out as well. And we were like, oh, totally could have smoothed his face out even more. We everything else at the end.
Found out a little too late.
Yeah. But it was interesting with the three, like to we also sculpted in Maya as well, like the knuckles, because they're printed straight out. So if you bend it, they look a little soft, like kind of other. It just didn't look good. So I sculpted in like actual fists, so you can get harder knuckles. And so sometimes, like when she clenches her hand, it's just going from one frame and then closed fist. So we could replace them as well. Sometimes we shape them, so then we could go into certain replacement pieces and stuff. But then sometimes if you do too much, you get a variety in the paint work as well. So we try to avoid it or hide it in the animation.
Or they don't melt quite nicely.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you just do it a little too much and then
just cook them.
Not so nice.
Here.
Thank you. Were you at all influenced by the Soviet-era films of Alexander Rowe, which portrayed Baba Yaga?
No, I'm not sure. I mean, we may have watched some of it when we were doing the research, but no, I should check
Something
that.
to look into.
Yeah.
Because the portrayal in these films of the character was really quite comic. And they had a man play the woman, and there was no fetishization of bones or anything like that in any of these pictures, which I thought was very interesting compared to your version.
Yeah. No, whenever we talked to anybody that had any history with the stories of Baba, they always made a huge impact, and they were when they heard these stories as children. And so when you read these, you're like, they're not really meant for kids. Like a lot of times she's trying to eat them. But there were always these like hard lessons that you sort of like the tough medicine that grandmother was going to give you. And so we love that. That's what we loved about her. But the idea of the bones being that she's kind of this mediator kind of character. She's the in-between like life and death, and also this rebirth and this idea of a cycle. And so bones just felt really natural that Maura had written into the story that the house is made of bones. Because traditionally it's just a kind of hut on chicken legs. And I always thought, like, what chicken is this big? So it was like, no, to me, if the rest of it was bones, these are dinosaur legs now. And then it opened up all the other ideas of like, well, what else? It could be the shell. Oh, okay, it's rib cage of a whale, or shark jaw doors, So it was a nice way to sort of bridge into this world of what is bones, and is it, we're creating children. We got our babies there. Yeah, we're playing with dead things or fake dead things. So it was a really weird, morbid thing, but she kind of was bringing life to what would be dead. These bones shouldn't be alive, yet she made a house, and this house was kind of her child. So that was a nice way to sort of, and that's, I think, always having that level of sort of dark macabre is totally Slavic, and so, yeah. Long answer for that one.
Hi guys. Stunning, absolutely stunning. Especially knowing it was done in such a small space, to do it in such a confined area. I wanted to come back to you, Dale, about the house, because the way it comes to life. I'm quite fascinated how you rigged it. It's quite dark, so I'm sure you can get away with hiding a lot. Was the main house with a big rig and the legs separately rigged?
When it gets up when it gets up, you mean, and sits down?
Yeah, because the whole way it gets up was wonderfully planned as well.
Can we get the screen on? I can show that time lapse again.
And we had a rig at the back of the house, just holding the floor of the house, and then the legs, everything was all together.
Yeah. So yeah, you can't really see it, that like between the two pink screens there was a short arm going through the back, and the legs were all attached. This was all in camera as much as possible. We try to be purists. We try to do it all in camera, with some success, some not success. So it was, funny enough, I animated it standing up, and Sylvie animated it sitting down.
Because we both wanted to play. He was always like, oh, you get to shoot that shot? Well, I get to do this one.
And the legs, technical details. The legs just had wires between the joints, so we could animate them. If you look close, you can actually still see the wires. We didn't bother comping that.
Well, it's dark enough. Whatever.
But then, a foam core body. Try and keep it as light as possible. The bones were pretty light, which was nice. They were hollow. We made into the model to make sure they were hollow. And then, foam core roof, paper leaves. The lights underneath the house for the waters. There was also LED too.
There you go.
Any questions?
Yep.
Hey guys. First of all, congratulations. Mike Mignola would be proud of you. I'm sure. Send it to him, he'll love it. I've been working with my spouse for 15 years. I know you guys have been together, working together for years too. And I was wondering, how do you, since you both animate, how do you split, like, what's your usual kind of way of splitting who does what? Like you were talking about it right now, but is there one of you that's more inclined towards specific kinds of, I don't know, portraying animation for emotions, for instance, and one of you is more like about the action side of it? I don't know. How do you split your animation duties, basically?
I think we understand each other's strengths. So Dale's much more of a technical animator, I think. I'm more into like expressions and more emotional stuff. But when it comes to working, like, you know, they'll take care of like the rigging and stuff like that. I'll light. And you know, you were doing post. I shot a lot of the stuff because Dale ended up doing so much post, and it worked so well because we would set up, and then I would give him what I was about to shoot. Then he would, you know, make sure everything was okay. The green screen, it fit into the, you know, animatic. And we were both working at the same time. Yeah, I was a pre-comp, and it was just working really well.
So Sylvie, you did all the lighting on the whole thing, right? You're the DOP on the whole thing. Yeah. That's cool.
And well, Dale
Lovely
helped with the
lighting, by the way.
LEDs.
It's great lighting, by the way.
Thanks.
LED gaffer.
Yeah, you were my LED gaffer. Yeah. I think more than that.
But I think it was kind of overall when we do kind of like question like how the hell do we work together? It is really whenever there is conflicts, it's because we didn't make it clear. Whatever that task was, who's responsible for what, and then just, you know, so then you know your limitations and you know what your expectations are as well. So that was kind of always the thing. It's just sort of like, okay, well, let's just divide it up, make sure that we do it. But the division of who was going to animate stuff, it was kind of just initially like, well, which ones do you really want to do?
And when we had the baby, it was also dependent on who was more awake.
Was there like one shot that you both really wanted to do and you had to kind of toss a coin or something?
The
house falling? No, the house falling I was always going to do.
Yeah, you always wanted to do the house falling. I think the squish zoom.
Yeah, the squish zoom. Yeah, that one was.
Yeah.
When he gets grabbed by the chair, we kind of did the sort of classic zoom in, pull, you know, zoom out, pull out. That's where I was pulling out my hair for the motion control. You know,
But
made
we
it happen.
didn't really fight too much over shots.
No, because it's like sometimes we were looking at the shots and we were like, did I do that one? I can't remember because we were talking so much about every single shot that it felt like even if one of us was animating it, we both were as well. So it was everything was discussed and talked about to nauseam. Yeah.
Thank you.
Extremely serious question. Your favorite pizza?
Vegetarian.
I just want to come back to the question about the hands. It's quite an interesting process. How many life cycles could you get from the heating process?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Couple,
Yeah.
2, 3.
Yeah. Sometimes it would break. It depends, like, because Vlad, he was standing up, like the regular, like so his prints were the consistent and Baba was laying down, his would break along the lines of the sediments, so to speak. So those were always like 9 times out of Vlad's hands broke way more often than Baba's did. But then so, you know, we had definitely hero hands, and we're like, okay, no, this really looks good for the certain pose or whatever. But we definitely had to go back and reprint a bunch of hands at one point.
But overall, we didn't print that many hands. Like,
no.
What?
Maybe 10 or 12 pairs for each character or so. So, yeah. We're pretty, yeah, especially Baba's, we're pretty resilient. So, yeah.
Yep, coming.
Yeah. Did you have some sort of baby blues once the movie was done, or just a huge release?
Totally huge release.
We were very happy it was done.
Very happy. Yeah.
Finally, stopped talking about it. We talked about it all the time for like 4 years. It was like nonstop. And then, you know, we finished the film, and then we left for Portugal like 2 weeks later. So it was good to just get away from it all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this has kind of just reopened the wound.
Thanks,
Slumbering baby. That's what it is.
Any more questions? Actually, I got one. So, because like you've been talking a lot about how you learned about like processes, things you would like do differently, things you would not do anymore. But like, what would be the thing you would like absolutely do again on your next stop motion film? Whether it is like a technique or whether it is like the material, for example, do you still want to work with 3D printing or?
The 3D printing is definitely, you know, a really great tool. I was really impressed and really excited by it all, so I can't wait to get a printer myself.
I think it's more a question that, you know, we did it, so now we want to try something else.
Yeah, and I think as always with every project, it's never the same recipe. So you kind of, but I think what I would love to do again is work with the people we did work with and work with them again.
Right?
But that's always what we feel like our goal is just to get our friends jobs, because we've got so many talented friends, and that was one of the exciting things when we did Little Prince, was just to bring everybody together on something that we can all jump into. So another pull why we it's not just like, oh, okay, get our friends jobs so we're not all starving. It's just like I want to utilize their talents. And I feel confident making a project like this happen because those, like, all this talent is all around us. So that's always a really exciting thing. I think that's what definitely drives me to be able to make projects happen.
Good answer.
So we brought the guests of honor. They're hiding over there underneath the sheet. Should we bring them out? A couple hands as well to give you an idea of what the difference is. One thing we didn't actually do. Baba's clothes are all in paper as well. That was really fun. In texture, trying to keep it authentic. The textures all together. So that was fun. That was another thing that we learned from Little Prince, just like the power of paper. A little bit of wire. And I think Kurt Pestle is the only thing that's real. Not creative. Pine stick. Pine stick. Yeah. Bad faces. Cinnamon flavored. Yeah. See it if you want.